Welcome to a cozy night with Alice. Tonight's story is just right for little ones who need a gentle wind down before bed. So let's get all snuggled in. But first, could you tap the subscribe button? It's a tiny click for you, but it tells YouTube that you enjoy our stories, and that helps us grow. All settled now? Great. Let's begin. This is the story of Luna the llama, a peaceful little soul who lives high up in the gentle hills of a quiet countryside. One golden morning, with sunlight pouring through the curtains of her hillside cottage, Luna opened her eyes and stretched her fluffy legs. The room glowed with warmth, and through her window, she could see rolling green meadows and towering mountains kissed with snow. It looked like the perfect day for a walk, maybe even a small adventure. After a breakfast of oatcakes and mini tea, Luna stepped outside. The breeze was soft and the earth smelled fresh. The winding path near her home was calling her name. As she trotted along, she remembered her grandpa's cottage was nearby. Perhaps he would like to come with her. Soon she arrived at his garden. Grandpa Llama was resting in his favorite striped deck chair, his hooves folded, eyes half closed, soaking up the sun. When he spotted Luna, his face lit up. "Why don't you sit with me for a bit?" he said kindly. Luna nestled beside him and shared her idea. "I thought maybe we could climb up to the waterfall trail today. It's such a lovely day." Grandpa chuckled, leaned back deeper into his chair, and said, "Oh, sweet one, I do love the hills, but today my heart wants stillness. I think I'll stay right here and let my thoughts drift on the breeze." Then he looked at the grass around his chair and laughed softly. "Although I should really trim the lawn first. It's starting to look like a jungle." Luna's eyes sparkled. "Let me do it for you. I love the smell of cut grass, and you should keep relaxing. I'll even bring you a cup of your favorite tea." Before Grandpa could object, Luna bounced inside, filled the kettle, and brewed his favorite blend, fresh grass and honey. She poured it into a special mug and brought it out, placing it carefully into his hooves. "Thank you, my dear," he said with a grateful smile. Luna fetched a lawn mower from the garden shed and got to work. As she moved back and forth, the soft buzzing of the mower and the sweet scent of grass filled the air. Birds chirped gently from the treetops, and butterflies floated by like tiny dreams. When the lawn was trimmed and neat, Luna noticed the leftover clippings. Grandpa always saved some to dry for his tea, and the rest he liked to share with neighbors. She turned to ask him what to do, but Grandpa had dozed off, the empty mug nestled in his lap. Not wanting to wake him, Luna tiptoed back to the shed, cleaned up the mower, and gathered the grass. She placed a good portion into the special tin he used for tea leaves, and tucked the rest neatly into a basket by the door for the neighbors. Then, with her heart feeling warm and her body ready for rest, Luna returned to the deck chair beside her grandfather. She snuggled in quietly, closed her eyes, and let the calm of the day wrap around her like a soft blanket. And there, in the quiet garden with the smell of cut grass in the air, Luna and her grandpa enjoyed the sweetest kind of silence, the one that only comes from love, sunshine, and just a little bit of kindness. The rest of the grass trimmings went into a woven basket. Though her grandpa was peacefully napping in his deck chair, Luna gave him a quiet wave and tiptoed away. She continued along the sunlit path, the basket swinging gently from her side. She was certain someone would find a use for what she carried. Before long, she spotted someone working among rows of vegetables in a nearby garden. It was Mira the alpaca, one of Grandpa's longtime neighbors. Mira glanced up and greeted Luna with a bright smile. "Out for a walk, dear?" Mira asked, brushing soil from her hooves. Luna lifted the basket and explained where the grass came from. "Would you like some for your garden?" she offered kindly. "Oh, absolutely." Mira beamed. "I was just thinking about mulching around my carrots and potatoes. It helps the soil stay moist. If you don't need it, I'd be happy to take all of it." Luna gladly handed the basket over. Mira took a sniff of the fresh grass and laughed as she fluffed her wool-covered arms. "You know," she added, "my coat has grown wild lately. Must be the new lavender shampoo I tried. I've had to shear it 3 times already. I have a whole pile of soft wool indoors. Too much for me. Would you happen to know anyone who could use it?" "I'm not sure," Luna replied, "but I can carry it with me just in case." Mira thanked her and exchanged the grass for a cozy heap of soft, silvery wool. With a grateful wave, Luna continued on, the bundle now nestled snugly in her basket. As she walked, the path led her to a field of tall, whispering grass and clusters of mossy stones. Their young chinchillas were playing tag, their giggles echoing across the hillside. Their mothers rested nearby, chatting quietly as they watched the little ones tumble. Luna approached with a gentle hello and showed them the fluffy wool. One of the mothers clapped her paws together in delight. "This is perfect," she exclaimed. "Our little ones are growing so fast, and we're always making new clothes. And with school starting soon, we'll be knitting uniforms too." Another mother chimed in, "And don't forget scarves and mittens. It'll be winter before we know it. Plus, we have relatives arriving soon. So many little chinchillas to keep warm." Luna looked at the frolicking youngsters and smiled. "Then please take all the wool." The chinchilla mothers were overjoyed. As they packed the wool into their baskets, one of them chuckled, "We've also been clearing out extra straw to make room for new homes. Would you like to take some?" "That might come in handy," Luna said. They traded the soft wool for a golden bundle of straw, and with cheerful goodbyes, Luna carried on. The sun shone gently on her back, and birds sang overhead as Luna followed the path closer to the base of the mountains. Along the way, she passed through an orchard brimming with apples. A ladder leaned against a tree, and high up was a mountain goat, ready to pluck a ripe fruit. When he noticed Luna, he climbed down and waved. "Lovely day for a walk," he said. "Where are you headed?" "Toward the mountains," Luna replied, holding up her straw. "Would you like any of this?" The goat scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Actually, yes. My orchard harvest is booming, and I'm short on baskets. I could use some of that straw to weave new ones." Luna offered the bundle, and the goat accepted it with thanks. "Have you ever made a basket before?" he asked. "No, I haven't." "Well then," the goat smiled. "It's time you learned." He led her to a shady spot under a big apple tree. Before teaching her, he climbed the ladder with ease and plucked 2 bright apples. He tossed one to Luna, and they both took a juicy bite. The apple was crisp and sweet, full of sunshine and cool rain. After their snack, the goat showed Luna how to twist and weave the straw. At first, it was tricky. Pieces kept slipping from her hooves, but she didn't give up. Before long, she proudly held up her very first hand-woven basket. "Well done," the goat cheered. "Now, how about we fill that basket?" He led Luna through the orchard, and together they gathered apples, pears, lemons, and oranges. Soon, her basket overflowed with colorful, fragrant fruit. Luna looked at the bounty in awe. "This is so much. Are you sure?" "Take it all," the goat said. "I've got trees full of more." Grateful, Luna gave him the last of the straw, and even the basket she'd made. With a warm farewell, she skipped down the path with her new basket of fruit swinging by her side. The cobbled trail led her deeper into the mountain range. Clouds floated low over the peaks like soft white blankets. As she walked, mist began to drift around her, brushing gently against her fur. Wild orchids bloomed in rocky crevices, filling the air with a light floral scent. The path curved upward, and soon Luna entered a cloud forest, where everything felt hushed and dreamlike. The soft mist settled around her like a gentle hug, and golden sunlight peeked through the swirling fog. Eventually, the path opened up, and she stepped above the clouds. The mountaintop stretched out before her, dotted with snow and tall evergreens. Luna paused, taking in the breathtaking view. A voice beside her broke the silence. "It's something else, isn't it?" She turned to see a small monkey with a fluffy yellow tail and a smart orange vest. He smiled warmly. "I'm Marlowe," he said. "I live up here." Luna introduced herself and offered him some of the fruit she had collected. "I wasn't sure what monkeys like to eat." "This looks perfect," he said with a happy grin. "I've been climbing all morning and could use a snack." As they sat together beneath the sky, sharing juicy apples and sweet oranges, Luna felt a deep sense of calm. She had set out for a simple walk, but her journey had become something much more magical. Christian T-shirt Marlowe, the cheerful monkey with the bright yellow tail, thanked Luna warmly. Pears were his favorite, and he savored every juicy bite. As they sat together on a smooth rock, nestled high above the clouds, Marlowe invited Luna to stay a little longer. He was curious about where she had come from and what had brought her to the mountain. The two of them sat side by side, overlooking the cloud-draped valley below. While Marlowe nibbled on another slice of pear, Luna told him all about her day, the animals she had met, the kindnesses she had shared, and how one small gift had led to another. As she spoke, she realized something quite beautiful. Each creature she met had given her something in return, not because they had to, but because they wanted to, her heart filled with warmth and gratitude. "I never expected such kindness," Luna said softly. "It feels like a trail of generosity, stretching from my grandpa's garden all the way up here." Marlowe smiled. "It's a wonderful feeling, isn't it? Giving is special, but so is receiving. When we allow others to give, we create balance. Everyone feels joy." Luna tilted her head. "Balance?" she asked. The monkey brushed pear juice from his face using the tip of his fluffy tail. "Yes," he said thoughtfully. "Because you gave me this delicious fruit, I'd love to give you something in return. Not because I have to, but because it brings me happiness too." Luna smiled shyly. "Being here with you and sharing this moment, that's already a gift." Marlowe nodded understanding, but reached into the small pocket of his orange waistcoat anyway. "Still," he said with a wink, "I'd like you to have this." He pulled out a tiny figure made of mountain clay, a perfect little sculpture of himself, with a tiny yellow tail and an orange vest. "I made it from the soft earth down in the valley," he explained, "and I let it dry up here in the mountain breeze. I love crafting little things. And, well, getting my paws muddy too." Luna gently took the sculpture and placed it inside her basket with care. "Thank you, Marlowe," she whispered. "This means a lot. I'll keep it safe always." She looked up at the darkening sky. "It's starting to get late. I should make my way home." "You're welcome to visit us anytime. My grandpa would love to meet you." Marlowe promised he would, and with a cheerful wave, he reminded Luna of something important. "Don't forget, just as you give, don't be afraid to accept kindness in return. That's how joy keeps going." With those words echoing in her heart, Luna began her descent down the mountain. As she entered the soft cloud layer, a distant rumble of thunder rolled across the sky, and raindrops began to fall. Worried about the sculpture, she clutched her basket close, but just then her feathered friends appeared once again. The umbrella birds, with their fluffy black crests, flew gently overhead, forming a graceful canopy of wings. They shielded Luna from the rain with a living umbrella, their feathers catching the drops and keeping her and the sculpture dry. After a short while, the rain passed, and the birds chirped sweetly as they fluttered away. Luna thanked them with a grateful smile and continued her journey. When she reached the orchard again, the mountain goat was waiting by his tree, a warm smile on his face. "There you are," he said. "I thought you might be coming back this way, so I made you something." He held up a neatly wrapped apple pie, still warm from the oven. "I love baking," he said, placing it carefully in Luna's basket. "I thought you might enjoy a slice when you get home." Luna's eyes lit up with delight. "That's so kind of you. Thank you." She gave the goat a friendly goodbye, and with her heart and her basket both full, she walked on toward the glowing horizon, ready to return home, her spirit light and her step slow and calm. The evening deepened gently as the forest canopy glowed in soft twilight. The koala family, now bundled in their warm coats, stepped out from their snug wooden cabin. They descended the steps of their porch and began their evening walk down the winding forest path. Coco, the youngest koala, slipped one paw into his coat pocket, but then reached out with the other and held onto his grandma's hand. She gave his paw a warm squeeze, and he looked up at her, smiling. Grandma's paws were always warm, just like her hugs, and they made Coco feel safe and loved. The forest was peaceful as they walked beneath the rustling leaves. A gentle breeze floated through the trees, carrying with it the soothing scent of lavender and soft rose petals. Coco looked up and noticed the sky had shifted to a deeper blue. Wisps of pink and orange lingered on the horizon, painted across the clouds like brushstrokes from a dream. "Look," Coco whispered excitedly, pointing to a tiny spark in the sky. The very first star had appeared, twinkling proudly in the early evening. It shimmered like a jewel resting on a velvet cushion. Grandma, walking beside him, followed his gaze. "That star really sparkles tonight," she said softly. Just then, Coco's mother turned and added, "And the moon, do you see it just above that old oak tree? It looks especially full tonight, almost like it's glowing just for us." Grandma chuckled gently. "You always say there's magic in the air," she said to Coco's mom. "You believe that since you were Coco's age." Coco's mother paused for a moment, smiling to herself as she walked. "It's true," she replied. "There's something about this time of day. It feels peaceful. Everything is finished for the day, but the night hasn't quite begun. It's a moment to breathe, to dream, to be still. I love this in-between time." Grandma nodded thoughtfully, her eyes twinkling. "It does feel extra special tonight." She turned to Coco and asked, "What's your favorite part of bedtime, little one?" Coco didn't hesitate. "Everything," he giggled. "I love snuggling into my blanket and hugging my teddy bear. I love my pajamas, especially the ones with ducks on them. I love bubble baths. I even put bubbles on my nose sometimes." He grinned up at Grandma. "Not when I'm out bath, though. I wipe them off first." His mother and Grandma laughed softly. Then Grandma leaned down and asked, "And what do you love most of all?" Without missing a beat, Coco replied, "Bedtime stories." "I thought so," Grandma said with a wink. "You always ask for one the moment your head hits the pillow." Coco chuckled, realizing how well his family knew him. As they continued walking, the forest darkened and more stars blossomed in the sky above. Ahead of them, Grandpa and Father Koala walked slightly ahead, often turned to smile back at the rest of the group. In the distance, an owl hooted gently. They passed a rabbit burrow nestled at the edge of a mossy hill. A mother rabbit stood just outside, looking up at the sky. "What a lovely night," she said softly as the koalas passed. "The stars seem especially bright tonight." 3 little bunnies peeked out behind her, waved at Coco, and called out a cheerful good night before hopping back into their cozy home. Mother Rabbit gave a gentle smile and followed them inside. The forest sky had now become a rich midnight blue. The full moon, round and glowing, had risen high and bright, casting silver light across the treetops. As the koala family continued along the path, they came upon a familiar friend, Fudge the Sloth. She was nestled on a thick tree branch, arms wrapped around the trunk in a cozy hug. Her eyes blinked sleepily when she spotted them. It looked like she was about to say something, but instead her eyes closed again and a tiny snore slipped out. Grandpa whispered, "Good night, Fudge. Sweet dreams." Not far ahead, the sound of water flowing gently led them to a peaceful river. Baby otters floated on their backs in the warm water, their tiny paws folded over their bellies, gazing up at the stars. On the riverbank, a group of frogs were practicing their bedtime yoga, stretching their arms and legs toward the sky in slow, peaceful movements. A little way off, a mole sat on a smooth rock, eyes closed and breathing calmly. "What's he doing?" Coco whispered. "He's meditating," Grandma replied softly. "It's a way to quiet the mind and find peace inside. See how gently he breathes? I like to do that sometimes too." Coco watched the mole for a moment, then nodded. "I think I might try that sometime." The forest felt more magical with every step. A hedgehog was gathering leaves and tucking them into a hollow tree log, creating a soft bed for the night. Squirrels were nibbling on the last of their crunchy chestnuts and sunflower seeds before curling into nests high in the branches. Along the forest edge, groups of tiny field mice were brushing their teeth, combing their fur, and slipping into their snug pajamas. Some were already tucked into bed, their tiny lanterns glowing softly beside them. Coco's family walked quietly now, listening to the gentle hum of cicadas in the tall grass. Fireflies glowed like floating stars among the leaves, and the air was filled with a calming scent of chamomile. Soft bird song, twilight tunes, floated down from the treetops as the last birds nestled into their nests. Soon, the family spotted a small cave where another of Coco's friends lived. It was Napoleon the little bear, sitting outside with his parents. He waved sleepily to Coco as his mother looked up and said, "It's such a beautiful evening." Napoleon's trying to count the stars. Coco watched as the little bear quietly counted 1, 3, but by the time he reached 8, he let out a long yawn, blinked slowly, and before reaching for again, his head was resting against his father's arm, and he had drifted off. Coco yawned too, his eyes growing heavy. Grandpa noticed and said, "I think it's time we head home." They took a shortcut, leaving the path and walking gently between the trees. As they walked, they met another one of Coco's friends, Autumn the fox, with her glowing amber fur. "Evening stroll?" she asked, joining them for a bit. "This is my favorite time to wander." The family and Autumn walked together beneath the silver moonlight, not saying much now, just enjoying the peacefulness of the night. Autumn the fox, with her shimmering amber fur, walked beside the koalas a little longer as they followed the forest trail. As they wandered, Coco looked up at her and said, "Will you tell us a story?" Autumn smiled warmly. "Of course," she said, her voice calm like rustling leaves. "Would you like to hear about the owl who chats with the moon?" Coco nodded eagerly. That was one of his favorite tales. Autumn began. "Each night, when the stars rise and the sky glows silver blue, a wise old owl perches high in the tallest tree. There, she speaks softly to the moon, telling it all about the forest. And sometimes, the moon asks her to polish the stars with her softest feathers." As the story wrapped around them like the breeze, Coco's smile widened. He had heard it before, but somehow it always felt new. Before long, the warm yellow lights of their wooden cabin glowed through the trees. Autumn gave them all a gentle good night, then disappeared into the shadows of the trees with a flick of her tail. Coco, still holding Grandma's paw, climbed the veranda steps. Inside, Father Koala was already preparing something special. "I'll run your bath," he called. "There's a mountain of bubbles waiting for you." Coco took off his coat and hung it neatly on the peg. He also helped Grandma fold her purple shawl and placed it gently beside his. Then he tidied the living room, putting his books and toys back in their special places. Coco liked everything to be just right before bedtime. From the bathroom, his father called again, "It's ready." Coco entered the room to find a warm tub full of bubbles, just how he liked it. Soft scents floated through the steam, rose petals, lavender, and the faintest trace of peonies. He dipped a paw in and smiled. The water was perfect, sliding into the bath. Coco let the warmth wrap around him. Some of the bubbles popped gently, and others clung playfully to his fur. His father sat beside him on a chair and kept him company. Coco swished his arms through the water and shaped the bubbles into a castle, although it looked more like a fluffy cloud. He didn't mind. In fact, clouds were one of his favorite things to dream about. Soon, he gave himself a bubble hat, then a bubble beard. Then he looked up at Father Koala and giggled. "You need one too," with a bit of bubble magic. His father soon had his own hat and beard made entirely from foam. Very distinguished, Father Koala said with a mock serious face, checking himself in the mirror. The two of them blew some bubbles into the air, watching them drift and shimmer in the bathroom light. After a while, Coco yawned deeply. "I think it's time to come out," his father said softly. He fetched a fluffy towel from the warm radiator and wrapped it gently around Coco. The little koala's favorite pajamas, bright yellow ones with tiny ducks, were also warm and ready. They smelled like sunshine and fresh air from being out on the washing line earlier. Once Coco was dressed, they returned to the living room. Grandma was drawing the curtains, but before she closed them, she and Coco looked out one last time. The full moon glowed brightly above the trees, and stars twinkled like fireflies in the sky. Somewhere nearby, an owl hooted gently. "Maybe that's the one who polishes the stars," Coco whispered. Grandma smiled. "Could be." Once the curtains were drawn, the room felt even cozier. A fire flickered in the hearth, casting golden light across the walls. Coco sat between his mother and Grandma on the soft sofa, holding tightly onto his cup of hot chocolate that Father Koala had just brought in. The creamy, sweet drink warmed his paws and his belly. His mother sipped hers too, and Grandma said it was the best hot chocolate she'd ever tasted. Grandpa, settled in his rocking chair by the fire, offered to play a song. "Yes, please," Coco said, eyes lighting up. Grandpa reached for his soft pink ukulele, cradled it carefully, and began to play. The music was gentle and melodic, each note rising like a dream. In his warm, deep voice, he sang a lullaby about a fairy named Midnight who danced among the stars. Coco took a final sip of his drink and placed his empty cup on the table. As the music wrapped around him, his eyelids grew heavy. Grandpa strummed another soft tune, and Coco leaned his head against Grandma. She kissed the top of his head and said, "Time for bed, little one." Coco stirred and whispered, "Can I still have a bedtime story?" "Of course," Grandma said. He stood up slowly and gave each of his family members a goodnight hug. He yawned once, then twice, and couldn't stop smiling. Grandma lifted him gently into her arms and carried him to his room. She placed him in bed and tucked his blanket snug around him. Coco hugged his teddy bear tightly. "I love my bed," he mumbled sleepily. The night lamp beside him glowed gently. It was shaped like the moon, with little stars swirling around it. Grandma sat beside him and asked, "What story would you like tonight?" Coco thought carefully. "The one about the magic school where the two children first arrive." "Ah, yes," Grandma said, smiling. "A favorite." She made sure he was warm enough, then began the tale in her softest voice. As she spoke, Coco listened closely. His breath slowed. He remembered what she had told him earlier about taking deep breaths to help his body relax. So he breathed in and out, in and out. The words of the story filled the room, but they also filled Coco's dreams. He imagined the magic school, the friendly teachers, the secret staircases, and the wonderful adventures waiting inside. With every breath, his body grew lighter, softer, sleepier. In and out, warmth surrounded him. The blanket was soft. His bed felt like a fluffy cloud. In and out, Coco smiled one last time. And then, without even realizing it, he was fast asleep. Sparky was unlike any other little owl in the forest. While most owls tucked themselves into leafy nests before sunrise, Sparky would still be zipping across the sky, wide-eyed and full of wonder. He didn't want to sleep, not when there was so much to see, to do, and to discover. Each evening, as dusk painted the sky in shades of lavender and navy, Sparky soared above the treetops with his owl friends, darting between branches like feathers on the wind. They played games. Who could fly the fastest, who could glide the longest, who could swoop through the tiniest gap between two trees. And when the owls finally grew tired, the bats joined him, flitting and chatting across the night sky like squeaky little comets. The moths came too, tiny and determined, slipping through cracks and corners no bird could follow, giggling through leafy shortcuts. Sparky, golden and bright as a sunbeam with feathers that puffed and stuck out at funny angles, loved it all. But Sparky also loved the daytime. "I can't miss the colors," he'd chirp. "How else would I ever see a rainbow?" And it was true. Rainbows didn't visit the night. If Sparky slept through the day like other owls, he'd never see one. That idea alone was enough to keep him wide awake. During the sunlit hours, Sparky visited his land-dwelling friends, curious cats and chatty dogs who told him stories about their homes. He was fascinated by houses, sheds, tree houses, even garden tents. One time, he accidentally flew straight into a wardrobe. The door shut behind him, and he had to stay there all night until an elderly lady opened it the next morning and freed him. His mother hadn't been amused. "Never vanish like that again," she had said. And he hadn't. Instead, he'd simply decided never to sleep at all. Of course, this meant that Sparky yawned. A lot. He yawned at dawn. He yawned at noon. He yawned mid-flight, which sometimes made flying tricky. His grandmother, watching him flutter past one morning, asked gently, "Sparky, why don't you rest for a little while?" "I don't want to miss a single thing," he replied. His auntie, wrapping a wing around him, asked softly, "Sparky, why not close your eyes just for a bit?" "I've got too much energy to be still," he chirped, bouncing in place. Later, his mother, brushing his ruffled feathers smooth, asked one last time, "Why don't you want to sleep, darling?" "There's too much world to see," he whispered, eyes gleaming. The three owls watched him flutter away into the early light, sighing gently. They had an idea, a quiet plan to help Sparky discover the magic he'd been missing. They gathered his closest friends and set their plan in motion. The first to greet Sparky that day was Twitch the rabbit, known for her twitchy pink nose and boundless curiosity. Want to play log balancing? Sparky asked, wings flapping excitedly. We could, Twitch said thoughtfully. Or I could tell you about my dream from last night. Sparky tilted his head. A dream? Twitch began to describe curling up beneath her soft blue blanket, ears tucked, tail fluffed, while her mother sang a lullaby, a story song about a brave little rabbit who raced through meadows by day and slept peacefully in her burrow at night. Then, as Twitch had dozed off, her dream took her to a faraway land, where rabbits dug tunnels so deep the soil changed color beneath their paws, from rich brown to reddish copper. Then, suddenly, they burst into a golden savanna, where giraffes wore scarves and flamingos danced in sparkling lakes. Zebras played tag with butterflies. Even a hippo was doing pirouettes in a tutu. Sparky blinked, wide-eyed. You saw all that in a dream? Twitch nodded proudly. Sleep can take you on the wildest adventures. Sparky felt a flicker of curiosity. He'd always wanted to visit places like that. Maybe, just maybe, dreams were worth having. Still, Twitch's mother called her home for lunch, and Sparky flitted onward, unsure what to think. Next, he visited Hank, the grumpy bull who lived in the village pasture. Hank was halfway through digging his hooves into a muddy patch, grumbling about how it wasn't muddy enough. Want to race across the field? Sparky asked. Oh, I would, said Hank with stretch. But it's nap time, and oh, the dreams I've had. Sparky fluttered closer. Hank told him about lying beneath a great chestnut tree, the grass soft, the breeze cool, sunlight dappled like melted honey. I dreamed of a butterfly, Hank said. She landed right on my nose, pink and gold. When I breathed in, her wings opened. When I breathed out, they closed. Sparky listened, entranced. The butterfly led me to a secret cave hidden behind a waterfall, Hank continued. Inside, stars had fallen on the walls, glowing like tiny suns. A frog in a beret was painting masterpieces, and fireflies danced around me, placing flowers on my horns. It was like something out of a storybook. By the end of Hank's tale, Sparky found himself yawning. A real, honest-to-goodness yawn. His feathers felt a bit heavier, his wings a touch slower. Still, he thanked Hank and continued on. Maybe Fergus the ginger cat would be up for something active. Sparky found him curled in a patch of sunshine inside a cozy conservatory. The light pooled on the chair, making it extra warm. Tail chasing by the sea? Sparky asked, tapping the glass with his beak. Fergus stretched, yawned, and slowly blinked at the little owl. Can't today, he said with a purr. This sunspot is far too perfect for a nap. Another nap? Sparky asked, half laughing. It's when all the best dreams come, Fergus replied. Just yesterday, I dreamed I was the size of a teacup and lived inside a flower. Bees brought me honeycomb pillows. Butterflies played lullabies on harp strings. I floated across a river on a lily pad, while stars winked above me. Sparky leaned against the windowsill. Another dream, another adventure. He didn't know why, but the idea of laying down and dreaming suddenly didn't sound so boring after all. That night, as Sparky returned home under a lavender sky, his grandmother met him at the nest. Did you have a good day? She asked. Sparky nodded slowly. I think I'm ready to try sleeping. And so, with his family gathered close, Sparky nestled into the softest spot in the nest. His mother tucked him in, his aunt sang softly, and his grandmother whispered, Sleep is just another kind of adventure. Sparky yawned once more, then closed his eyes. And as he drifted off, the stars twinkled just a little brighter, perhaps because a golden-feathered owl had finally discovered the dream-filled magic of rest. Fergus the ginger cat stretched out lazily on his cushion, his paws just barely brushing the edge of a sunbeam that spilled through conservatory glass. With a slow flick of his tail and a deep yawn, he looked over at Sparky, the little golden owl who had arrived, eyes wide and wings fluttering with excitement. I'm sorry, Sparky, Fergus said softly, his voice like velvet. I know I promised we'd play tail chasing this evening, but I've just come from the most wonderful nap. I'm hoping if I lie here long enough, I might slip right back into that dream again. Sparky blinked. It was the third time today that one of his friends had turned down playtime to talk about sleep, and not just sleep, but dreams. Magical dreams. Whimsical. Fantastic dreams that sounded more like stories in slumber. He didn't think much of it. Not yet. He was too busy being completely caught up in Fergus's tale. Fergus purred contentedly and began. I climbed on a couch just as the sun came pouring in, right through window, and landed on my favorite cushion. I rolled onto my back, stretched my paws to the sky, and started counting imaginary stars. It's how I always drift off. I got as far as a glittering weeping willow made of silver light, and then I was dreaming. Sparky leaned in, feathers ruffling. In the dream, Fergus continued, I was on a flying carpet, soft as cloud fluff and warm as toast. I floated high above the trees, over sparkling rivers and whispering forests, toward the snowy mountains. The wind sang as I soared. He described landing in a field of violet heather, where a llama sat cross-legged on a mossy stone, gently strumming a small guitar. He played a melody so sweet, Fergus said, that bluebirds rose into the air to carry the tune across the world. Sparky's golden eyes sparkled. He could picture it perfectly. But that wasn't all, Fergus said with a sleepy grin. I flew over the ocean next. Below, dolphins leaped through waves that shimmered like starlight. Whales rolled in the water like sleepy giants, and seagulls carried oyster shells on their backs, each shell glowing with a polished pearl. Fergus paused, watching Sparky's expression grow softer. It was all so vivid, he whispered, so peaceful. And as Sparky sat listening, his eyes fluttered once, then again. He covered a yawn with his wing, just as his mother had taught him. He didn't see Fergus give a quiet smile. He also didn't notice that Hank the bull was peeking over the garden wall, or that Twitch was hidden among the roses, her nose twitching with excitement. All of his friends were nearby, watching with hopeful eyes, because today, their gentle plan was nearly complete. They had all shared their dreams with one goal in mind: to show Sparky, the little owl who never wanted to rest, that sleep was not something to avoid, but a magical place to journey into. As twilight crept across the sky, Sparky slowly flew home. He was quiet when he arrived, a sleepy quiet, a good quiet. His mother and grandmother and Annie had waited up all day, hoping, wondering. Would the night be the night Sparky finally decided to sleep? He didn't argue when his mother polished his beak. He didn't wiggle when Grandma tugged on his bright red socks or adjusted his long, woolly nightcap. He didn't even protest when his Annie perched beside his bed and offered to sing him a lullaby. I think I'd like that, Sparky murmured. Twitch's mom sings lullabies too. The three owls gathered close. His mother smoothed his feathers. His grandmother tucked the blanket up to his beak and around his wings. His Annie fluffed a pillow and asked the glowworms nearby to dim their soft glow. Sparky gave a tiny nod and closed his eyes. His aunt began to sing. Her lullaby floated through the room like moonlight. A song about painting stars and dancing across the surface of the moon, about gliding back to Earth on a single moonbeam and sailing across dream lakes on lily leaves. It was the very lullaby her mother had sung to her when she was a tiny owlet. For the first time, Sparky didn't feel the pull of the world outside. He didn't wonder what he was missing. He didn't want to be anywhere but here, in his cozy bed, surrounded by love. His wings relaxed. He began to breathe slowly, in for 1, 2, 3, and out for 1, 2, 3. Again and again. That was all it took. The little owl drifted gently into sleep. He didn't see the soft smiles his family exchanged, proud and content. And as he sank into the stillness of slumber, Sparky found himself, in the strange and magical way of dreams, already far away. He was standing in a land he had never seen before, surrounded by creatures he had never met. The sea shimmered a shade of blue he never knew existed. Fields rolled like ocean waves. Flowers nodded their heavy heads, as though greeting him. The air carried stories from far-off lands. The stars overhead blinked brighter than he remembered. And in the middle of it all stood Sparky, smiling, dreaming, fly without flying. In this world made of dreams, Sparky finally understood. There is wonder in the waking world, but there is magic in sleep. The stars shimmered above, like tiny lanterns hung across the sky. In Sparky's dream, he was lying on the soft sand with all his friends, creatures of daylight and moonlight alike. They were side by side, looking up at the heavens where moonbeams danced, writing swirling letters across the dark canvas of the night. Then, to his delight, a rainbow stretched silently across the sky, arching from one side of the world to the other, glowing in colors no one had ever seen before. In his sleep, Sparky smiled. Somehow, he had stepped into a world where the impossible became real, all because he had dared to dream. Now, dear listener, while Sparky drifted deeper into his slumber, another tale was beginning on the far edge of Sleepy Forest. Where the trees give way to golden plains, there lies the Sleepy Savannah. Along its edge runs a quiet river, where crocodiles float like logs and hippos blink sleepily beneath the water surface. In the heat of the day, they rest together in peaceful silence. Wander a little deeper, and you'll spot giraffes nibbling leaves, elephants gently swinging their trunks, and buffalo dozing in the shade. And of course, there are rhinos, graceful antelope with twisty names, like sable and bushbuck, and weaving through it all, the ever-curious zebras. This story is about one particular little zebra. He's just 6 months old, which, if you were to turn that into human years, makes him about 7. His name? Toby. Not Zed or Zorro or Stripey as you might expect. Just Toby. And once you meet him, you'll think, of course his name is Toby. It just fits, along with the name tag he wears proudly on his chest. Now, Toby is known far and wide for something quite peculiar. He is lovingly called the zebra who can't get any Z's. That's right, Toby struggles with sleep. Not because he isn't tired. Oh no, Toby is often very tired. He's just so excited by the world that his little mind never wants to stop spinning. There's always something to think about, something to ask, something to chase or climb or imagine at night. When he nestles in the grass beneath a leafy tree, head tucked gently against his mama's warm side, Toby tries very hard to sleep, but thoughts swirl and twirl like dancing leaves in a breeze. He'll start to wonder about the stars, the moon, the bats flying overhead. His poor mother, bless her big, patient heart, tries to answer his endless questions. What's that star called, Mum? Can I see a planet tonight? Did you hear that owl? It went on, until one night, when she yawned so widely that 6 unsuspecting flies flew straight into her mouth. She decided it was time for a plan. Toby, she said gently, why don't you go and ask the other animals how they fall asleep? I bet you'll learn a thing or two. And between us, she was also hoping for a few peaceful minutes to nap on her own. Toby thought this was the best idea ever. Off he trotted into grasslands, ears perked, eyes wide, hooves clattering excitedly on the dry earth. The first animal he met was a large, kind-looking wildebeest. Excuse me, Mr. Wildebeest, Toby asked with his most polite voice. Do you have any tips for sleeping? I'm trying to learn how, because I'm the zebra who can't seem to get any Z's. The wildebeest scratched his chin with his hoof and gave it some thought. Well, he said slowly, I like to sleep in the middle of the herd. That way, I've got my friends all around me, hooves tucked, heads resting, tails swishing. It's warm and safe, like a big living blanket. I rest my head on someone's belly, and someone rests their head on mine. It's all tangled and wonderful. He chuckled. Sometimes I count stars to fall asleep, but to be honest, I've never made it past 10. Toby nodded thoughtfully. Thank you, he said cheerfully. That sounds lovely. He turned and galloped back to tell his mother, only to find her fast asleep, dreaming of getting her hose painted at the spa. He gave her a gentle nudge. Mom, the wildebeest sleeps in a cuddle pile. That's nice, dear, she murmured, barely awake. Maybe try asking someone else. Just then, a tall giraffe sauntered by, nibbling lazily from a tree. Toby trotted over quickly. Excuse me, Mr. Giraffe. Could you tell me how you fall asleep? The giraffe blinked down, slowly lowering his head, so that Toby wouldn't have to yell up at the clouds. Well, said the giraffe, chewing as he thought, I sleep standing up, you see. I find a tree with just the right leaves and lean gently against it. That way, if I get peckish at night, I just have to reach forward and Voila, a midnight snack. Toby giggled. That's very clever, he said. The giraffe smiled and gently leaned back against his tree, already half asleep once again. As Toby trotted away, he looked back and saw only the giraffe's legs sticking out below the leaves and his head poking out above them. The rest of him had vanished entirely into branches, and Toby laughed aloud at the sight. Returning to his mother, Toby whispered, "Mom, the giraffe has a snack tree for bedtime." But she was snoring now, hooves twitching as she dreamed of dancing with flamingos. Toby sighed contentedly. Maybe sleep wasn't just about lying still. Maybe it was about feeling safe, about soft warmth, shared dreams, and quiet skies. He looked around and saw the sun beginning to dip toward the horizon. Shadows stretched long across the land, and the air turned cooler and calmer. He lay down on the soft earth, tucked his head against his mother's side, and thought about what he'd learned. A warm herd, a sturdy tree, counting stars, soft songs. And then he yawned, just once. Then again. The sky above slowly turned a deeper blue, and as the first stars peeked out, Toby's eyes fluttered closed. And finally, the zebra who couldn't get any Z's drifted off into dreams. Toby stood still, the afternoon sun wrapping him in a sleepy warmth, his striped legs dusted with the golden earth of the savannah. His tiny zebra heart was full. He had listened, he had learned, and now he had returned. "Mum, Mum," he chirped, nudging her gently. His mother stirred, blinking sleepily and brushing a dreamy image of the hoof salon from her thoughts. "Yes, my sweet? I spoke to so many animals, just like you said." Toby beamed with pride, his hooves doing a happy little dance. "I talked to a leopard and an elephant and a hippo and a tortoise. I even saw a lion, but I remember what you told me. Let sleeping lions lie. So I let her lie." His mother gave a sleepy, proud nod, her tail swishing softly. "Very good, dear." Toby's brow furrowed slightly as he sat beside her. "But, Mum, none of the things they do really work for me. I tried to sleep in a tree like the leopard, but I kept slipping. I tried holding my breath in the water like the hippo, but I couldn't last more than 10 seconds. I even wished I had a shell like the tortoise, but he looked down at his hooves. No luck there either." His mother smiled and leaned over, gently nuzzling the top of his head. "Perhaps, my darling, that's because you don't need to sleep like anyone else. You just need to sleep like a zebra." Toby blinked. "Sleep like a zebra?" She turned and gestured with her nose to the herd behind them. "Take a look." Toby followed her gaze. The zebras stood together peacefully, eyes closed, some swaying gently, some nibbling grass before closing their eyes again. None were lying down. None were tucked into blankets or curled under trees. They just stood, still and serene, letting sleep come in little bits at a time. "They're sleeping standing up," he whispered. His mother nodded, eyes soft, with their knees locked and their hearts still. "It's not the longest sleep, but it's our sleep, and it works." "But they wake up so soon," Toby exclaimed. "Yes," she chuckled. "We don't need to sleep for hours like lions or float up like hippos. We nap in moments. A little here, a little there, and when we wake, we graze, we stretch, we move, then we sleep again. Sleep is different for every creature, darling. Some find rest curled up in trees, some in the depths of a muddy pond. Some carry their sleep around in a shell, and some, like us, sleep on their feet." Toby looked back at the herd. He watched one young zebra twitch his ears in a dream, then blink awake, nibble some grass, and gently shut his eyes again. "Should I try it?" he asked, a little hopeful, a little unsure. "I think," said his mother, her voice like warm velvet. "That's a very good idea." So Toby stood. He wiggled his legs, wobbled a bit, then locked his knees like he had seen the others do. He let his eyes flutter closed. For a moment he swayed, then found his balance. His breathing slowed. His tail settled. And just like that, Toby slept. For 5 whole minutes, Toby was swept away into a dream. He dreamed he was climbing trees with leopard paws, leaping from branch to branch, tail trailing behind him like a streamer. Then he was swimming under sparkling water, a hippo's ease in his breath, floating, diving, spinning with the fish. He was eating leaves as he snoozed, balancing on enormous elephant feet. He imagined a shell snug around him, cool and dark, keeping out the noise of the world. In his dream, he had it all. He was every creature and none, and it was magical. Then he awoke. He blinked. He stretched. He smiled. And with a little skip, he nibbled some grass, letting its sweetness tickle his tongue. Around him, the world was still and sleepy. And then, just like that, he shut his eyes again, knees locked, body still. And he slept. This time, in his dream, he rode a magic carpet made of stardust across the night sky. He flew past whales who sang lullabies and birds whose wings shimmered with the dreams of others. The stars blinked in time with his heartbeat, and fairies whispered stories as they danced around the moon. He drifted on lily leaves, painted constellations with his hose, and giggled as he slid down moonbeams like a playground slide. It was a world made only for dreams, and Toby belonged. Back in the real world, his mother watched quietly. She smiled, her heart full. Her little zebra, once the one who couldn't get any Z's, was now wrapped in dreams of his own making. "You did it," she whispered to the sky. "You found your way." From that night forward, Toby was still called a zebra who couldn't get any Z's. But now, it was with a smile. Because everyone knew that when Toby did sleep, it was with wonder in his heart and a dream on his mind. He didn't need 8 hours or a fancy tree or a muddy pond. All he needed was a patch of grass, a quiet moment, and his own zebra way. So if ever you find yourself lying in bed, eyes wide, wondering why you can't fall asleep like others do, remember Toby. Remember that not everyone sleeps the same way. Some sleep in whispers. Some sleep in snatches. Some sleep while the world is wide awake. And that's okay. The important thing is not when or how you sleep, but that you dream. Because in dreams, we can all climb trees, float on clouds, and soar across skies painted with stars. And so, with a gentle breeze blowing through the savannah and the stars rising one by one, Toby stood sleeping once more, knees locked, eyes closed, dreams wide open. The end.